This is going to be how we won the game show. But it's a little, we're dropping it, but I'm going to go behind the scenes of how we actually won this game show of Lingo. And I think a lot of this will apply to other game shows as well. Ours is very specific. But that's step one. Step one is you got to know your game, and you just got to start getting in the realm. So, like, if it's something like Jeopardy, then you got to go to trivia nights every night. You got to be playing online trivia games. You got to be watching Jeopardy. I started watching the old YouTube videos of Lingo, even though it was going to be different.
Yeah.
I started watching them, and then Brian, we had the app that we were both doing, and then I was on Wordle, Lingo app, and Quirtle, which was 4 Wordles at one time. I don't know if you downloaded that one.
No, I didn't have Quirtle.
That one was just ridiculous, but I was still playing that one too. So, like, every day now we were playing it. So this is, if you're going to win a game show, you got to be practicing.
Yeah.
Like, if you think you're just going to wing it.
You can't just wing it. Because, again, like, so... And this isn't like some like trade secret. Like all the contestants without a doubt had open access to this because they all were playing the game. Like there was other people that I know just based off of like they had like word lists, which is what we had word lists, like common words starting with X, Y, and Z letter, things that were a little tricky to us. Like we were going back and forth like preparing and like honestly like that's what the producers want. They don't want you to go on the show and just bomb because then the audience is going to be like, this show sucks. Like, these guys are terrible.
Yeah.
Like, and we all know we watch Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, and it's like, there's always contestants that slip through the cracks, and you're like, how did this joker get on here? He's a buffoon. So, like, we did our due diligence, not to mention, I said it. Like, look, I've been playing poker for, I don't know, close to 20 years now. I don't want to say very low tournament winnings, but I have lower than you would expect someone who'd be on a podcast, right?
Yeah,
but the point is
almost 6 figures.
Yes, but what I'm saying is this, I thought to myself, like, if I'm going to have the potential to win some money, this is closer to what I excel at compared to poker. That was my personal feelings on it. Like, look, I'm going to be able to crush this. Because I know myself well enough to know that I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I can do this.
So confidence is definitely something you're going to need going in besides studying on top of that. But one thing Brian said, now this is specifically Lingo, set skill. One thing Brian said to me, and it was probably after the first week or two, he's like, dude, don't look at the keyboard when you're playing the game. And you may not understand, but if you play Wordle, you can look at the letters like, okay, I've used R, I've used L. What letters have I used? But when you're on the game show, there's no keyboard in front of you. There's no letters that you've used.
Nothing.
So your mind has to process the letters in your head and see everything like laid out by yourself. So I started like covering and not looking at the keyboard. So that was a big skill. If anyone in the future is going on Lingo, you definitely want to use that skill. Do not look at any of the letters.
Use the keyboard at all.
And try to go there.
Nope. And then you got to remember too, like the app is different than the game, right? The app has a certain timer, and like not going into the rules of Lingo, but if you watch the first season, you kind of have an idea of like when your time runs out, when you need to answer a clue by, like things like that. So like one thing we always stressed to each other prior to even going on the show was like, look, if you get stuck, don't try and solve the word. Just get a word up there so that you have an opportunity to guess again in the next tier of a timer breakdown.
And that I think that's another tip that I definitely would throw out. And people had asked me about like some of the stuff when they watch a show, and I explained them like how we kind of did it. My mind was like this. It was like I was just going to cram and memorize as many openings as I possibly could. So like, for example, if like raise was the first word, the second word I would think of was if I used like an AI, it would be like an OU. So I would use the word round next. Now, round and raise are almost completely different. But the thing is like I knew in my head I had at least 2, 3, or 4 words built into my mind for each letter.
That would use like half the alphabet.
Yes.
Like, right? Yeah.
So we were trying to consume as many letters as possible when we got stuck. Now, if we were right there when we were one letter off, obviously we're going to gun for it and we're just going to go for it. So I knew Brian's mind is a little more analytical when it comes to figuring that out. So I was like, all right, I can focus on just cramming these words down. If we get stuck, I'll just throw something randomly out there to keep the timer. And I think if I remember correctly, I don't think we got timed out at all, did we?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't think, because I watched the other episodes and like a lot of people have gotten timed out.
Yeah.
I don't think we did. So that was one of the things is you want to make sure that maybe one partner is aware of the time because it moves very quickly and they're controlling, like, just make sure we have something there if we need it, and have your other player that's maybe more analytical deciphering and figuring out at the same time. Because I had people in the show like, why did you throw out that word there after that? And I was like, well, if you saw, we were down to like 2 seconds. I threw something out. And then if you realize we got a letter there, which then helped us and Brian able to figure out from that spot on to the next one. So you can't think of it as like a linear thing of like, all right, I used A, so I need an AE or AB. So like I have to just throw out other letters to consume as much of the alphabet as possible.
You got to remember, you have a certain number of guesses to guess the word. You don't need to guess the word in the first or the second try. Like, yeah, I get it. There's monetary values associated with each guess, but at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is get to the final result, which is the word. So those are all little things that we had talked about in advance before we even got on a plane. Like a lot of the stuff that we were like doing, I want to say that some of the other contestants that wound up winning on the other episodes, throughout season 1, I'm sure that they had some sort of game plan in place that they were practicing well before they even landed, in Manchester. Because it was apparent. Like we wound up winning $83,000, right? But there were other teams that, like, obviously they banked a lot of the winning teams moved on to each round, but we were one of the lower totals that were won throughout season 1 for those 8 episodes that they aired. And it's not because we did poorly. I think it's because some of the other teams didn't do as well as I think they anticipated. I
think one of the things that hurt me personally was the heads up round. And so I thought I was going to be pretty confident with the 5-letter heads up round. And here's where something where, listen, you could play on your phone all day, but then when you're in the studio and you're in front of people and there's a live crowd and you got a celebrity host and everything, it gets to you a little bit. And what threw me off was I was comfortable, okay? I was comfortable. We had this big screen and we were looking away. This is what threw me off. And I'm going to be honest. And, like, I know it sounds like a shitty excuse, but it hurt me because it threw me off, is when they brought out those little TVs. And people on whatchamacallit don't know that because they don't see it. When you went to the heads up round, so you were looking, if you watch us, we're looking at this big screen. When you go heads up, you see the letters on the board, but we were looking at these little, like, I want to say 32-inch TVs they rolled out.
Yep.
That hurt me because now, like, I felt like I had everything in my head here, but then when I had to focus here, I don't know why, but it was harder for me to focus.
No, I know. Listen.
But that's what I'm saying is, and I don't want to use that just as one excuse, but what I'm saying is, people going on a game show realize that how you're studying and playing at home
is completely different than it's going to happen when you're there. Yes. And I also think that, so the UK version that pretty much we were told to, like, follow and watch, even though I had already known, like, the Chuck Woolery version. So we watch it. And the monetary value that they won in pounds in the UK was like,
10 grand or something.
It would convert to us like maybe like $8,000. So, like,
we didn't know. Oh, that was the thing. Yeah, we didn't know.
So that's what I'm trying to get on.
Yeah.
So we had no idea what the winning prize was going to be,
because it's the first season. It's never been seen.
We basically were like, you know what? Let's just have fun. And from, like, listen, I am by nature a very anxious, overthinking person. But from Jump Street, I'm like, dude, let's just go have fun. It's not going to be life-changing money. And you know what? It is what it is. Like, we're getting a trip to the United Kingdom out of this for a long weekend. Like, let's just live it up. And we actually got some content because we went to a bunch of, like,
if you see our other, just drop it real quick. If you go watch our other poker room, we did some United Kingdom poker room stuff back
while we were there. But so the one thing that we did say to each other, and this is, we said, like, if it is big money, and when I say big money, like what it was, a substantial amount of money for both of us, I was like, I'm going to be sick to my stomach. So needless to say, when, like, we knew the rules in advance, it's well established, like, before you get there, but, like, you never really know how much you're going to win. So then when that was dropped, I'm like, I remember slapping him across the chest, and I'm like, our biggest fear has just reared its ugly head.
First place is a $50,000 bonus. I was like,
but I'll say this, and maybe you don't think it. Your your mentality changed because he's usually like cool, calm, chill. Me, I was the one who was like, dude, calm down, like have a good time.
I was like, I was like, dude, I saw
like,
blood.
Yes,
I was like, we're out to win at
yes,
this. Like,
he was like a shark in the water.
Yeah, dude, that's how I felt. I was like
zero chill.
But the night before, so just drop a little more tip here. There's 10 and 12 letter words.
Oh,
and
that's
I think
right. Yes,
here's a little strategy I would throw out there when we kind of talked about this. Now, this is a primetime TV show. So the words that are going to be on there are going to be words that the average person is going to understand. They're not going to have...
The viewers would see and know.
Yes. Like, they might be difficult. They might be a little higher of the vocabulary chain, but they're not going to be like words...
I mean, they're 10 and 12 letter words.
But,
yes.
But they're not words that you never heard of. Like, what does that even mean? So we crammed the night before, like, the most common 10 and 12 letter words, which actually helped us because there were some of the words that we were going off of, and they were stuck in our head. So we were cramming 10 and 12 letter words, like going through like Google's like most used R 10 letter word, most used 12 letter word with the letter L. Like we went through the whole thing the night before and just going over. So even up to the game show itself, they don't let you allowed. Here's another thing: you're not allowed to bring a phone into. And I would assume this is for all game shows.
All game shows.
You're not gonna be able because obviously cheating. You're not gonna be able to bring your phone in there. So another tip: if you do go on a game show, let your significant others know. Like I probably won't have contact with you for the entire day. So they take your phone. But here's where we had a little. I mean, for me at least, and we saw one other team do this as well. I had flashcards that I physically had written out,
which was clutch because you were able to continue to kind of
study
do something. The other guys had like a notebook with words in it.
Yes.
But me, I was flying blind.
Yeah, you're like whatever.
But I was good.
Yeah, but no, you were.
I was my zen.
Yeah,
my chi was centered, dude. I was in.
You were there. I wanted to keep studying. So if it's something that you want to keep your mind fresh, like going into it, like if you're one of the people that have to study up to the last second of a test, like I am, and you want to cram and stuff, then know that they might not even let it, depending on the game show, but they let us bring note cards in. Now, obviously, I couldn't bring them onto the game floor because we had a little green room, back room. But in the back room, I was just sitting there killing time by just like reviewing words. So my head was just staying in the moment because I knew if I was just sitting around doing nothing, then my mind would start getting like maybe anxious and stuff.
Yeah.
But I knew that by studying was going to help me. So that was something that kind of helped us too.
So then let's just fast forward a little bit. Well, we've kind of talked about our experience there, but so we get selected, right? Woohoo! Like we finally get there, and then obviously we have to spend like 3 or 4 days in Manchester. So again, we did what we did. We went to a couple casinos. We did a couple poker room reviews, things of that nature. And then day of, we go to the studio and we're going through the whole recording thing. So in the gameplay, so needless to say, it was very difficult when you're on stage because, I mean, it is a lot in front of a live studio audience, right? You're there all day. It's such a big hoopla. Like, I mean, there's wardrobe, there's makeup, like, and they treat you like royalty, which is like, take it all in. And that's what I kept saying to him. I was like, dude, just enjoy this. Like, the staff that was there to help with the contestants, like, dude, it was so much fun. Like, just learning about the culture, like the cultural differences, the cultural gap. Like,
yeah, because that was your first time in Europe too, right?
Yes, so, but we're talking about just like random things that's unrelated to what we're about to go do with like the other contestants, and then obviously like the staff that's assigned to us. But then we get on. So needless to say, like we go on, and one of our 10-letter words is a word we had talked about the night prior, which was laundromat.
Yeah, and even before that, when we did a pretrial when we did a pretrial, they run you through the show like without recording. They're like, and like, they give you like a test word, like, all right, this is what here we go, this is how it's gonna be,
like a practice.
And that word was in there too, is bachelorette. So like it was like I was like,
that's right.
Yeah, so I was like, dude, these words are the ones we've been cramming. So all this was fresh in our head.
Yes.
And so, that's why I'm saying, like, you have to study.
You got to do your due diligence. Like, you got to think about it like this. And this was what kind of relayed to us. Like, and we didn't really think of it this way. Like, we were told that we but we were selected over tens of thousands of applicants. And like, that's the reality is like, if you get selected to go on a game show, you got to realize that there's a specific reason why you were selected over everyone else that applied. And when you kind of put it into perspective, like there's, however many billion people in this world, you know, even if a small fraction of them applied for a game show, you still probably beat out 100,000 people, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Right. That's more than you would beat out in a poker tournament.
Yeah.
Right. So like, take advantage of it, because you don't want to go on there looking like a dingbat, because that was another thing we were really worried about, was like, if we go on here and look like absolute fools, like,
and get smoked.
And I don't want to tell anyone that I was on this show. Like, I didn't want anyone watching me get destroyed.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, it was an incredible experience. Like, shout out if you know from people from CBS or all the productive companies. It was great.
I got to drop out the biggest win of it all, the surprise ending, which
oh yeah, I mean obviously.
Well, so if you haven't watched the show, okay, check it out. It's episode 6 of the first season. You can watch it on, I think,
Paramount Plus.
Paramount streaming now. You can get it. I think it's probably on YouTube at this point or whatever. So going into it, like, I think the last interview they asked, like, they asked basic questions like, what would you do if you won the money? And I think Brian was like, well, I want to take my kids to Disney, like, and do some stuff.
Well, can I please just clarify?
Okay.
Like, come on, right? I just watched a show, UK. The team that's winning is winning $8,000.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like my kids have been begging me to go to Disney. I know Disney's like a $10,000 trip, like, and that's kind of doing it up,
with the family, yeah.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Family, the whole
so
nine.
Like that was like my cliche kind of like cookie cutter response. Had I known before that I was gonna, and again, 40,000 isn't life changing, but had I known, I would have come up with something a little bit better. Like,
well, because they asked me like beforehand, they're like, and I said, well, I said me and my girlfriend, I said we're looking, take the next step, and I said honestly, I said if we win, I think it'd be really cool. I would like to probably get engaged on the show and ask my girlfriend to marry me. And so what was cool is, and I think you remember this, and I don't remember, but the producer. Okay, yes. So at the end of the show, when it came to the final showdown, they moved the booths around. So you have some like 5-10 minute downtime where they're setting everything up, but you're just standing there. And so the producer, the one I had talked to in the last interview, like walked over me, and I already knew what he was going to ask. I already knew it. He just had that look in his eye, and he said to me, he's like, if you win, are you going to do it?
No, he asked if you were going to do it, and you said, if we win, we will.
Yes. That's what I said.
Then I walked past, and I'm like, we're winning.
Yeah,
like I told him, I'm like, we're winning, and we went out.
Yeah, and so at the end of the show, I proposed to my girlfriend, who is now my fiance, because she did say yes. But this was recorded last August.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so me and my girlfriend had already talked that we knew we were going to get married. We had already made plans, so it wasn't going to be like a super surprise that this was. So she knew that a proposal was eventually coming. And so she like had assumed that it was going to be like, we had gone away somewheres in the late fall together, and then we went away somewheres in like January together. So she was thinking that like I was proposing. Yeah. And then like all these things are happening, like I'm not proposing. So she's like kind of getting on me a little bit. She's like, I could see it in her, and like a couple of her friends have said stuff.
Let's go, dude.
Like, what's happened? I was like, don't worry, I have a plan. Just believe me.
Yeah.
I have a plan. So, but like in the back of my head, I had already proposed 8 months ago.
I know.
So what was cool was we had a party for all our friends and family. We did a little private dinner for some friends and family. But at the end of the show, obviously I proposed.
Hold on, Brian told his proposal story earlier on the show. So I have a proposal story of my own. Yeah. So if you're watching at home. Do it. Yeah.
And so it was a pretty cool ending to the whole
and
experience.
that was like such a bittersweet moment, because like anything else, and you're gonna know this if you do get on a show, like you can't really let anyone disclose like the outcomes.
Yes.
Even if you lose, you're really not supposed to say like, oh, I lost, like, or if you won. So like a lot of our loved ones, like they didn't really know what happened and how things kind of went, and it was like equally worse for like my wife, and then obviously your fiance now, like just saying like I can't really talk about it, like.
Because if it gets out on like Facebook or Twitter,
but
like,
it's not even that. Like it's just you don't want to ruin it for anyone. Like you don't want to ruin it. But real quick, getting back to like that final showdown. So like we had always said that if we had an option to choose, we were going to send out the other team to go first. And so this played like huge into our strategy and how we really essentially how we won, because
but like that's a poker strategy. Like in any game theory in life, if you take the position and you watch someone else go first in anything, you have, it's like you play the button, right? You always want to have position.
Late position.
You always want to have position because you want to see what they do. You want to have a feel for the time, the words, everything, the experience. And then we had to know how fast we had to move if they were, what they were doing. So you always want to take position when offered the option to take position.
Not only that, like you want to see other people screw up so that you don't make the same mistakes. And that was part of our goal because, yes, we read the rules, but we didn't actually see how it played out. And like it worked, like it honestly worked out exactly the way that we anticipated, because if you do watch our episode, you'll see the team that we went against and they were great. Like, I mean, that mother-daughter, like the mom was hilarious. Like it was like, I felt terrible, and we'll talk about that too. But like they didn't take advantage of the rules, meaning like they would get stuck on a word and they just kept trying to solve it, and their ticker's going down and down, and they could have just passed on it. And there wasn't a single time, I think, until like the very end that they passed, and they wound up getting like one or two words. And we still almost didn't make it until like the very last word with like maybe a couple seconds to spare.
But yeah, the timing, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to go back to what I was saying before, is like having one person maybe focus on the time and the other person focus on something else. That way, because, we were on that stage for probably hours and it felt like 3 minutes. Yeah. Because just the time, you're in this tunnel of like this whole
tunnel vision the whole time. Like you get out of there and like literally your whole body's just like exhausted. Like we still found a way to make our way to a poker room. I mean, why wouldn't we? We had just won $83,000. So needless to say, like we were playing a little splashy that night. It kind of worked out for us.
We actually worked out good.
But that was the worst part of it for me, and I think you can kind of agree, is like after we wound up winning, like woohoo, you guys won. Like, we unfortunately had to like go back and like kind of collect our things with the people who had just lost.
Yeah, and that was difficult.
We just I felt so terrible just like interacting with them afterward. Like they were happy for us and stuff.
The show is winner takes all, which I still think sucks, man. Like I hope in season 2 they have like a runner-up prize or something. Man. Because like that was which was difficult for me, is like I didn't want to gloat. I didn't want to like rub it in everyone's face in the background. Like, yeah, we're awesome. Because then everyone else, like, I mean, granted, they got a free trip, they had a free experience, but they go home with nothing, and it's like I felt weird, and I even said to Brian, I was like, dude, I just want to get out of here, man. Like
it was very uncomfortable.
It was, and listen, everyone there was awesome. The people we went against, everyone was nice, everyone was awesome. It was great meeting everyone. I would love to maybe connect with them on Twitter or Facebook or something. If they watch us down the show, feel free to add us.
Yeah, seriously.
Because it was a cool experience that we all kind of felt together. But at the same time, I was like, man, this sucks. Like they don't get anything, and like I just felt like a sickening. Like I just won $83,000, and I'm like, I want to get out of here right now.
And it's funny because like I feel like I feel like we were again. We saw some of the contestants coming in, like we all, like you just know who it is, and we're like, oh man, like I don't want to play against them. I don't want to play. Like you're kind of judging the other team just based off of appearance, and I guarantee they looked at us like, these guys got no shot.
Yeah, like I'm watching people study on the corners. I'm like, all right, we're gonna avoid them. This lady seems kind of sharp. I'm gonna avoid them. Like so. And then at the same time, we're just like, okay. But at the end, I was just like, oh man, I just wanted to get out.
Out of there.
So we went out to dinner, and then we went and played cards that night and had some fun. Found like a really cool poker room. And you can watch our review on that. But so that's our kind of breakdown. I think of one, how we got on a game show, and two, how we won it. Now, Price is Right, man. We gonna do it or what?
Yeah. No. First is we are segueing some of our winnings into the WSOP main event. You're going to see me and Sakali at the final table, and then I'm going to usurp his statistics over me and take the whole thing.
We are playing the WSOP main event. That was one of the things. We took some of our money. I mean, we invested in our family and stuff
absolutely.
Like that.
Yep.
But we took $10,000 aside, both of us, and we're like, we're playing the main. So we are going to the WSOP main event this summer. to play in it.
I'm gonna punt on day 1, so I'll be at the Mixed Game Festival.
No, see, you can't think like that.
Nah.
But anyway, thank you everyone for hanging out with us. Make sure you follow us on all social media. Thank you for supporting the Nerd Enthusiast Poker podcast. Make sure that you're a subscriber. Just hit the sub button. It's free to do on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen. We've been floating in the top 50 Google search. If you search poker podcast, we're in the top 50, which is awesome. We're up there with like some of the top guns, and I feel kind of weird. I'm like, man, these are like really big names, and it's kind of cool. But
we just need that clout. We just need some legitimacy.
So once I get that bracelet, we're gonna be good. So, but no, keep supporting us. Thank you. And if you want to reach out to us, follow us on Twitter, and you can ask us anything or whatever if you want to see stuff on the show, and we'll definitely do it. But thank you everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.
Next time.